Today's recitation for the Sanskrit will be Girish Prabhu, and for the English will be Shabir Mataji. And later on, at about 8:40 p.m., we're going to have a nice bhajan sung by Shyam Prabhu and translated by Mamta Mataji on the song Goranga Duti Pada. So, on today's particular chapter and verse is Canto 1, Chapter 8, and this verse number 22. And Girish Prabhu, if you want to recite the verses from 19 to 36 when you're ready, yeah? And you can say the invocation prayers.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 19. Maya Javnika Chanam Gyadokshajam Na Lakshya Se Murdisha Nato Natye Dharo Yatha.
Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable.
Shabir Mataji, I see you went on mute accidentally.
Oh, sorry, Prabhuji. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized.
Text 20. Tatha paramhansanam muninam malatmanam bhakti yog vidartnatham katham pashyam hi striya.
You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service onto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly?
Text 21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devki Nandanaaya cha Nand Gop Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudev, the pleasure of Devki, the boy of Nanda, and other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enliver of the cows and the senses.
Text 22. Namaha Pankaja Nabhaye, Namaha Pankaja Maline, Namaha Pankaja Janetraye, Namaste Pankaja Nangrihe.
My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with the depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
Text 23. Yatha Rishikesh Khalen Devaki Kansen Rudhati Chiram Shuchar Pita Vimochita Hamcha Sahatmaja Vibho Tavyev Nathen Muhur Vipdaganat.
O Rishikesh, Master of the senses and Lord of lords, you have released your mother, Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious king Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers.
Text 24. Vishan Mahagnehe Prushad Darshnad Satas Bhaya Vanvas Krichatah Mridhe Mridhene Kamharthastrato Drona Yastra Trishacha Samhare Bhirikshitaha.
My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poisoned cave, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from suffering during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama.
Text 25. Vipdaha santu tashashva tatra tatra jagat guru bhavto darshanam yatyad punarbhav darshanam.
I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths.
Text 26. Janme shavaraya shribhir dedha manad madhapuman nevarhatya bhidatum ve tvam kinchan gocharam.
My lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling.
Text 27. Namo kinchan vitaye nivrat gunvartaye atma ramaye shantaye kevalya pate namaha.
My obeisances, my obeisances on to you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the action and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the great, gentle, and are master of the monists.
Text 28. Mane tvam kalmishan mannadi nidham vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmitha kali.
My lord, I consider your lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In and distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse.
Text 29. Naved kasched bhagvam shrichittam tvehamanasya nirnam vidanbanam nayasya kaschedhito krahichid dveshascha yasmin vishmamatirnam.
O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial.
Text 30. Janam karam cha vishvatman jasya karturatmanaha tiryang nirshishu yadasu tadatyant vidambanam.
Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend among the animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering.
Text 31. Gopya dadeta vyaikrita gasidam tavad yate dashashro kalilanjan sambhramksham vaktram ninye bhay bhavnyastistasya samam vimohyati bhirapi yad bheti.
My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me.
Text 32. Kechidahurjam jatam punyashlokasya kirte yadho priye syanvavaye malya sayev chandanam.
Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills.
Text 33. Apre vasudevasya devakyam yachito bheyagat ajastavamasya kshemaye vadhaye cha surdivaksham.
Others say that since both Vasudev and Devki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of demigods.
Text 34. भारावतारणायन्ये भुवो नाव इवो दधो सीदन्तेया भूरि भारेण जातो ह्यातं भुवार्थितः.
Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble.
Text 35. भवेस्मिन् क्लिश्यमानानां विद्या काम कर्मभिः श्रवण स्मरणाहराणि करिष्यन्निति केचन.
And yet others say that you have appeared for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned soul suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation.
Text 36. शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृणन्त्यभीक्षणशः स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तेव तवेहितं जनः त एव पश्यन्त चिरेण तावकं भवप्रवाहो परं पदाम्बुजम्.
O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death.
Text 37. अप्यध्यनस्त्वं स्वकृतेति प्रभो जिहाससि स्वति सुहृदनुजीवन येषां न चान्यादभवतः पदाम्बुजात् प्रायणं राजसूयोदितां हसाम्.
O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us. Now, when all kings are at enmity with us.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Sorry for any mistakes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Girish Prabhu and Shabani Mataji. You recited the verses so nicely, so beautifully. A lot of devotion as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I just wanted to check, you can still hear me okay? And you can see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. It was nice to see you again at the temple, both of you.
Ji, same here, Prabhuji.
So I'm just going to share the particular verse today, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 22. Okay, you can see that on the screen. So I'll recite the verse again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtashu Bhadrashu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Utam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Okay. Namaha Pankaja Nabaya, Namaha Pankaja Maline, Namaha Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajang Raye. Word for word translation, Namaha, all respectful obeisances, Pankaja Nabaya, unto the Lord who has specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen. Namaha, obeisances, Pankaja Maline, one who is always decorated with garland of one who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Namaha, obeisances. Pankaja Netraya, one whose glances is as cooling as a lotus flower. Namahate, respectful obeisances unto you. Pankaja Angraye, unto you, the soles of whose feet are engraved with lotus flowers, and who are therefore said to possess lotus feet. Translation: my respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as a lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here are some of the specific symbolical marks of the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Shudras, the labor class, and the Dvija Bandhus, or the wretched descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Personality, of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archavigraha who descends to the mature world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above-mentioned women. Shudras and Dvijabandhus, because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes as the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. And thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore the Lord is known as Pankajanabi. The Pankajanabi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, a form made of earth, a form made of metal, a form made of jewel, a form made of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. There should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the women, Shudras, and Dvijabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, as alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of the Sudras and the woman or less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus, Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, i.e. from the waist of the Lord gradually to the face and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I recite the invocation prayers. Please do join in. Om Jnana Tibrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tata Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishamana Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunnivadi Paschata Desitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasar Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai, what a beautiful verse this is recited by Queen Kunti. Namaha Pankaja Nabaya, Namaha Pankaja Maline, Namaha Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus feet, as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So this beautiful verse, Queen Kunti offers her obeisances to Lord Krishna. She mentions the word Namaha 4 times and the word Pankaja 4 times. So it's very important to see that offering your obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is such an important activity in one's life. When we go to the temple, when we offer the obeisances inside the temple room, we ring the bell to let the Lord know we're inside the temple room. But when we offer our first obeisances, we put our top of our forehead to the ground and our hands facing forwards, touching the ground as well. And the idea behind that is that you're offering your head to the lotus feet of the Lord. You're touching the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the first instance, when you offer your obeisances in the temple room, you're actually offering your obeisances to all the Vaishnavas inside the temple. And then you go to your Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. In this case, we offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, and through the parampara, we take respects and offer our obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you can do the full dandavats, that's really nice. Then you're touching all the limbs of your body to the floor itself, showing that you are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. And when you actually look at the Supreme Lord, so Srila Prabhupada mentions down here that Queen Kunti, she felt a bit embarrassed seeing the lotus feet of the Lord, considering that the Lord may be embarrassed as well by not wanting to see Queen Kunti as a lower class person, but actually as an art. So she sees not Krishna through the lotus feet first, but from the thighs onwards to the lotus face, the lotus smile. The idea is that when you see the deity, Srila Prabhupada mentions, if you don't feel qualified, we shouldn't see the person by the lotus face, Krishna by his lotus face. We should try gradually, first of all, see his lotus feet, meditate on his lotus feet, then meditate on his the rest of the limbs going upwards to the lotus smile and the lotus face of the Supreme Lord. When you actually do that, actually you feel you are completely surrendering to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. When you actually follow that procedure, when you see the smile of the Lord, it actually says that, you know, this thousands of reservoirs which have accumulated over many lifetimes, all the tears and sufferings that you've undergone immediately gets vanquished, immediately gets evaporated. So just by seeing the lotus smile of the Lord, all the reservoirs of tears that we've accumulated for many lifetimes just completely evaporates. That's how beautiful the Supreme Lord is. That's how powerful seeing the Ashtavigra form of the Supreme Lord. So here Srila Prabhupada mentioned, or rather Queen Kunti mentions a particular garland that's decorated around the neck of Sri Krishna. Does anybody know what the name of that garland is? You're feeling very shy today. It's Vajantimala. You've heard of that or read about it? Vajantimala. And Krishna is always wearing this.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Kantabin?
Yes.
You're going to say the same?
Vajantimala.
Yeah, Vajantimala. Thank you. So Vajantimala, that garland is worn around the Supreme Personality of Godhead all the time. And also it mentions that from the depression of his lotus-like abdomen comes a lotus flower. From that lotus flower, who is actually seated on the top of that lotus flower?
Lord Brahma.
Lord Brahma, thank you, Krishnanga Mataji, is the firstborn personality, and from the realization he gets by praying and meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he performs tapasya for thousands and thousands of years, he actually gets the benefit or the benediction of creating this whole universe, the progeny of this whole universe itself. Now, there is other markings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well. Does anybody know any other markings of the Supreme Lord? If you can see my screen shared, you may be able to get a clue from the tab marks. Anybody heard of the Shivatsa mark? Okay, I'll just share this to all of you. Shivatsa mark, that's Lord Vishnu laid on the bed of Sheshananta, and Lakshmi Devi is massaging his lotus feet. So, Shivatsa is the unique curl of hair on the Lord's chest. It is the emblem of the goddess of fortune. It is described as a golden curl or white curl at different places. Dvapare Bhagavan Shama Pitta Vasa Nijayudaha Shivatsa Dibir Ankeshcha Lakshenu Upalakshitaha. Now the incarnation of God in the Dwapara Yuga is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Pitta Vasa Nijaya Vuda. He has got his own wheel, his instrument, and he has many signs on his chest. Shri Vatsa Adibi. Krishna was accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by signs also. There are many signs on the soul underneath the soul. There are many signs on his chest. And another characteristic of Krishna is the incarnation of Krishna's presence. They are described in the Shastras and the scriptures. So learned men, sages, they understood that here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's a little marking on the Supreme Personality's chest. It's like a white golden curl. Some places it describes it as a curl of hair. And that marking actually represents Lakshmi Devi. Now, there is a story behind that. If I do have time, I'll go into that as well. Now, does anybody know any other markings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Okay, I'll give you a little clue. The lotus feet of the Lord. Does anybody know what markings the Supreme Lord has on his lotus feet before I show you the picture? Okay. I think you're all. Here's the markings of the Supreme Lord. So I won't go into great detail in this because I did cover some of this on a topic in the previous chat, or specifically for Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. So Lord Krishna's lotus feet on his right foot, he has the marking of a barley corn, the dish, the lotus flower, the elephant goad, the thunderbolt, the victory flag, the umbrella, the Uddhav Rekha, the 4 swastikas. Number 9, 4 swastikas. Okay, I didn't realize that. Number 10, 4 Jaman fruits. Number 11, Astagon. The left lotus feet of Lord Krishna has the marking of Akash, 2 circles, the conch shell, unstrung bow, cow's foot, hoof print for water pots, the triangle, the half moon, and the fish. So these are some of the markings of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada actually mentions that the Supreme Lord has certain markers on his body that actually distinguishes him from any other personality, any other devas, any other human beings. So you can recognize this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you remember in one of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there was a person who was trying to imitate Lord Vishnu, having 4 arms and so forth, and he came on a battlefield to try and confront Krishna himself, and he claimed that he was the original Vishnu himself. And what did Lord Vishnu do? He just got his chakra and chopped his head off. So there's many people who try to imitate, to claim to be God. I am God, please come to me, I shall free you from all issues, personal issues that you will have, free you from all different reactions. But of course, there are just phony peoples. They don't have any markers. They don't have any qualities of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord has unlimited qualities, and of which 6 are the main qualities that everyone recognizes that the Supreme Lord has: strength, fame, beauty, renunciation, wisdom. I think that was all of them: strength, fame, beauty, opulence, renunciation, and wisdom. Yeah. So these are the marks of the Supreme Lord. Now, further on in the purport, it is quite surprising. Prabhupada actually mentions a lot about the women and them being lower class. And this may really put a lot of women off. They said, well, how can you claim us to be lower class? You know, and I've actually read some articles in the internet, sadly, where people are criticizing Prabhupada, calling them low class women. But I'll go into detail about that. They're not necessarily lower class at all, far from it. They're actually superior in so many ways. But here, this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about women, the Shudras, the Dvijabanus, are considered to be less intelligent and unfit to actually worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or actually have anything to do with the transcendental subject matter, and to the actual fame, attributes, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So, but at the same time, when we actually see Queen Kunti, she's actually a queen. She can't be a low-class Shudra whatsoever. She's of royal heritage. She was married to Prince Pandu. She is the mother of the Pandavas, who are more than anything the greatest devotees of Lord Krishna. So Queen Kunti is not just an ordinary person. She's certainly not Shudra or anything, but she considers herself lower class. And then hence she doesn't see the lotus feet of the Lord. She progresses on to from the waist onwards. Now, but there is a particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna actually says about the wonderful qualities of a woman. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 34. Mrityu savarashchaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kiriti shivakcha narinam smriti medadriti shama. Translation: I am all divine death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So you can see there are wonderful qualities in a woman. Krishna would have actually mentioned that in the Bhagavad Gita if there was no reason for him. I know in some of the verses it's translated as men. I am the intelligence in men, but men actually refers to mankind. It's not necessarily intelligence in the men itself, but intelligence both in men and women. Just like in this particular verse, I am fine speech, memory, intelligence. So when we actually see the role of a woman within the whole Sanatana Dharma, some of the greatest personalities are actually goddesses or women. Can anybody name any of the wonderful personalities who are goddesses? And even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so many wonderful stories about mothers as well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So we get Devahuti.
Yes, Devahuti, yes. That's what
Devahuti and Sati, Parvati.
Yes.
And Sita Mata.
Yes, very good.
And
Sita Devi.
We have Mandodari.
Mandodari.
And there's a lot. I forgot now.
Yeah.
I remember these two.
Yes. Anyone else like to say any wonderful stories for the Bhagavatam that's showing the good pastimes and leelas of ladies and the connection to Krishna? Yes, Kantaben?
Lakshmi Mata?
Yes, Lakshmi Devi. Yes,
Yeah.
she's of course the wife of Lord Vishnu, resides with Lord Vishnu at every place. Anyone else?
Ansuya.
Saraswati?
Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Yes, she's.
Ansuya.
Who was that?
Ansuya. I'm not sure, but Ansuya.
Bansriya. Okay, is that another name for Parvati Devi?
No, it was. She was. when Lord Rama and Sita, they
Oh,
were in the
yeah.
forest and
Yeah. Mantra, no, sorry, mantra was a bad one.
yes,
Yes.
then Ansuya Mataji gave a special cloth to Sitaji so he doesn't get dirty and all.
Yes, that's right. Yes. And then also we have such personalities. They're considered to be even greater than Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. If you get a chance to read Shiva Maharaj's book on Lord Damodar and Mother Yashoda, it's such a beautiful book. And actually, you actually see the actual, although the Leela is all about Damodar and Krishna, but actually you see the love and devotion that Mother Yashoda has for Krishna. You know, it's incredible that she's considered to be even greater than Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva because she's been given this rare form of where she, of course, Lord Krishna appears as her son in the Leela of Vrindavan 5,000 years ago. So the beautiful thing about Mother Yashoda, she doesn't see Krishna as the Supreme Lord, but she actually prays to the Supreme Lord. She prays to Vishnu, please protect my son. All these demons are coming to attack him. All these omens are coming. She doesn't see that, but she has so much love for Krishna that she's considered to be even greater than Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. And also we have somebody mentioned, I believe, Suniti Mataji, Dhruva's mother, because of Dhruva's desire to become very powerful. It was Suniti. She became like a guru to her own son, Dhruva Maharaj. She said, why don't you go to the forest, surrender yourself to Lord Vishnu? Because of his mother's instructions, he was able to come face to face and see Lord Vishnu in front of him within the 6 months of meditations and penance and austerity he went through. We have Mother Devaki as well, who went through so much difficulty, being actually imprisoned by Kamsa, you know, because there was a prophecy that the 8th child will kill Kamsa, and Krishna, cruel Kamsa, he actually, you know, imprisoned Vasudeva and Devaki. Can you imagine imprisoning your own sister? There's also
Kunti Devi?
and Kunti Devi herself, yes, the whole chapter is based on Kunti Devi, and if you read the teachings of Queen Kunti, it's actually so fabulous because it actually shows you how Krishna, you were always there to protect us, whatever calamities were happening to us. We were poisoned by a cake, we were burnt in the palace, you know, Bhima was thrown,
Yeah.
you know, into the river to
Poison.
drown. So there were so many calamities that they faced, but King Kunti is saying all these wonderful prayers to Krishna, you protected us. Now, what about the holy rivers? Who could name the holy rivers? They're all named after
Yamuna?
Yamuna,
Ganga.
yes.
The Saryu is supposed to be holy river as well.
Yes.
There is a
Mother
very
Ganga?
beautiful verse. Gange
Ganga
te
Maya?
Yamuna Chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narvada Sindhu Kaveri Jalasmin Samidin Kuru. So we have the 7 sisters here, the 7 rivers, 7 mothers.
Yes, thank you. Was that Indulekha Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes.
Thank you. Yes, that was the verse I was going to recite. Ganga, Jamuna, Jeva, Godavari. So basically, there's 7 holy rivers. Of course, there's thousands of rivers. You've got the fabulous Radha Kund that you know, washes any silvery ashes that you've accumulated over many lifetimes. But also the Ganga is considered to be so potent, and the Yamuna Devi is supposed to be so potent that it also diminishes all silvery ashes when you bathe in the Ganga Devi. So these are all named after goddesses, so they're not just ordinary personalities, they're not Shudras, they're not lower class. They're considered to be the highest form of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's important to understand that although here, Hare Krishna, if you can be on mute.
In half an hour.
And Indulekha Mataji, you can be on mute, please. Okay. I was going to just say that there are all these personalities, although they're actually
Draupadi?
Draupadi as well. Yes, thank you very much. I forgot about Draupadi. Yeah, Draupadi, and she is actually considered, her name is also Krishna as well. And then when you actually hear the story of Draupadi, that she was actually been, humiliated in front of all the great kings, in front of Bhishma Dev, in front of Dhritarashtra and everybody else, in front of her own husbands. None of the husbands came to save Draupadi in that humiliated stage where they tried to pull that sari off her, by Dushasan. So who came to save and protect Draupadi? It was actually Krishna. She raised one hand. She was saying, Gopal, please come protect me. Then she raised the second hand, both hands. So that's what we have to do. If we really want to be surrendered under the Supreme Lord, we take the instructions, the pastimes from Draupadi Devi. Please, my dear Lord, I'm in such a difficult situation. Please protect me. Please come take care of me. So even within ISKCON, we're so fortunate that we have so many wonderful devotees. And if you look at the history of how ISKCON started within England, within London itself, there were 3 couples who came to this particular country in 1969 on the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. They didn't need to, they were just newly married. So there was 3 couples. Does anybody know the names of these 3 couples?
Was it Guru Shyam Sundar?
Yep, Shyamasundar Prabhu, and his wife's name was Malati Devi.
Malati Devi.
And
Was
then
it Guru Das?
Guru Das, and his wife was Jamuna Devi. And we listened to her song every single day. Can you imagine every temple around the world, thousands of temples, when they have the morning darshan, 7 o'clock, data greeting darshan, they sing Govinda Maripusham Tamam Bhajami. That song is sung by Jamuna Devi. And I'll go a little bit more into detail how Prabhupada has such a soft heart for a lot of lady devotees because he personally trained them up. And who is the 3rd couple? Do you know? That was Shamuna's sister. Her name was Janaki. And Janaki's husband was Mukunda Maharaj. Mukunda Maharaj was one of the first disciples of Srila Prabhupada, was initiated in 1965 in New York at 26 2nd Avenue. His health is actually not very well at the moment, and he resides in Australia. But he's such a wonderful personality. If you get a chance to hear his class, hear about him, hear his love and affection for Srila Prabhupada. So these 3 couples, they surrendered their personal lifestyle, their personal, comfort zone to take the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and come to the West. When you actually read the Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita, even Mother Saraswati, they had a newborn baby. They didn't really have anywhere to stay. They were going from one place to another place. Can you imagine if you were put in that situation? But the mothers, Jamuna Devi, Janaki, and Malati Mataji, they were so how do you call it, transformed and fixed in service to Srila Prabhupada. They had so much love for Srila Prabhupada, even though they were in a difficult situation, they sort of supported their husbands in starting this Hare Krishna movement. And without these 3 couples, certainly, of course, Krishna arranges everything in a certain way, because the credit has to go to them through the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, that we're able to see Bhaktivedanta Manor, we're able to see ISKCON London and all the other temples within the UK itself. So Srila Prabhupada actually personally trained a lot of these devotees personally, and he actually trained a lot of the lady devotees in such a way that they could dress the deities. So earlier on, we could see that Srila Prabhupada was mentioning about the ladies, they may not be able to speak or hear the glories of Krishna. Maybe 5,000 years ago when women were subservient to men, but of course in this modern age, there's equality, there's diversity and inclusion that we all talk about. There's all this Me Too movement, which is very important. Women are actually have to have a voice, have to have an opinion. We see some of the greatest leaders in society are run by women as well, within companies or whether the political state. That you may not agree to their sort of political ideas or views, but certainly you can see they're not just ordinary personalities. They've obviously been put there through their piety from their previous life and through their intelligence. So we have Srila Prabhupada, he actually trained up Yamuna Devi in the cooking, in the art of cooking for Krishna, dressing deities for Krishna as well. And she's written some fabulous cookbooks, vegetarian cookbooks, that's won so many prestigious awards. She taught Mahalati Devi about different aspects of Krishna conscious activities, how to establish temples. And she also is very successful in her own life, and actually runs the temple ashram in New Vrindavan in America. If you've been there, it's such a beautiful, if you haven't been there, I certainly recommend all of you to go there. It's such a beautiful place. That's where the Srila Prabhupada's palace is based, and is actually visited by thousands and thousands of guests from all over America. And there was another lady devotee called Ilavati Mataji. She, Srila Prabhupada personally trained her how to dress the deities, how to bathe the deities, how to take care of them, also the cooking. And she also was very important in the early days of the deity worship form of the Lord within ISKCON. And if you see how Srila Prabhupada has given this opportunity around the world, all these ISKCON temples, so you have the beautiful lordships, whether you're in England, whether you're in America or India, you have that beautiful darshas of the Supreme Lord. Even when you go to other temples around India or any other places, you know, you don't always feel that same sort of spiritual energy, because there's a feeling of, well, rather, within ISKCON temple, everything's so crystal clear. You see the lordships and nothing else. You see them beautifully decorated, beautiful garlands, beautiful backdrops, beautiful vases, beautiful offerings of bhoga to the Supreme Lord. The way the art is performed, it's all done really methodically, on time. And it's done because Srila Prabhupada has such a nice emphasis on training the devotees and how to do Vijaya service based on Pancharatrika. So we're so fortunate that we have these wonderful devotees who've trained everybody, like in this case we mentioned about Yamuna Devi, Malati Devi, Janaki Devi, and also Ilavati Mataji, and many other devotees as well within the
Govinda
ladies.
Devi Dasi.
Govinda Devi, yes. Govinda, she's actually one of the early painter, decorator. So Govinda Devi and also Jadurani Mataji were one of the
Jadurani
early,
Mataji, Vishakha Devi.
and yes, I was going to mention Vishakha in a little while. So Vishakha Mataji as well. So Govinda Devi, and if you look at Jadurani, if you look at the early paintings of Srila Prabhupada's Krishna books, they're very basic, but they have so much love and devotion. They even mentioned that although they graduated in an art college, they'd never done a painting for a book or any magazines. But Prabhupada gave them that Shakti, that empowerment, that you carry on painting for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, if you look at some of the Jadurani Mataji, she's actually produced a very beautiful book on all the different paintings of her work over the many years that's been published in many of the BBT books and the Back to Godhead magazines. And it's so beautiful, so overwhelming, so much detail. And you cannot help but just fall in love looking at the painting. You know, they say the painting, it's a spiritual painting, of course, it's a spiritual window to the supreme abode of Krishna himself. So when you look at the paintings of Krishna, when you see the deity form of Krishna, when it's done with love and devotion, there's no difference at all form and qualities of the Lord. Okay, I'm just a little conscious of the time. And earlier on, Mataji mentioned about, sorry, if hopefully you can all hear me okay. I've got a message that the internet is unstable here. We have our own very own Vishakha Prabhu as well. If you actually get a chance to meet Vishakha Prabhu, she's so humble. She's so dedicated in service to Srila Prabhupada, even at such a, I'm not sure how old she is. She must be in her 70s, definitely, because she joined in the movement in the early 60s with her husband, Yadubha Prabhu. They went to travel to India, and then they made wonderful videos, film recordings of Srila Prabhupada traveling around the holy places, pilgrimage places in Vrindavan and other places. And they've captured so much footage of ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada, almost like 50 hours or so of Srila Prabhupada. Without their sort of support and willingness to be taking this opportunity of photography and video, we would have never had this possibility to have that connection with Srila Prabhupada. We would have seen the Murti of Srila Prabhupada, of course, that's wonderful. But when you actually hear his voice, see his personality through the form of film, through the form of audio, we can only thank Vishaka Prabhu and of course Yadubal Prabhu for their tremendous work. And of course all the devotees within ISKCON BBT as well, who produce a lot of these. And actually they're working on a massive project where they're taking the original archive footage from 16mm film, transferring it to higher quality, which they did about 4 or 5 years ago onto DVD format, but now they want to go into 4K resolution. So if anybody wants to help support that project, it is a project where they're actually going to a professional company to have it transferred from the original 16mm film to 4K quality. So the quality is preserved in a digital format. So for many generations, people can see this beautiful parts of the early days of ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada as well. So, and Vishaka Prabhu, of course, she's the temple president of Bhaktivedanta Manor. So we're so grateful for her for taking care of us. And also, I just wanted to mention also the devotees who run the Chad group as well. You know, there's so many devotees, so hopefully it's not in any particular order. So Divya Garangi Mataji, Madhu Kumari Mataji, Shriji Kishore Mataji, Jyoti Mataji, every day without fail, they arrange the speakers, they arrange for the facilitators, they arrange for the recording, they arrange for the messages to be sent out. We're so grateful for them. They're not just ordinary devotees. They're not suddenly, when we see them, they are devotees, they are empowered, and they do this for the benefit so that everybody could come and participate in Krishna consciousness, so that we should never consider them to be lower class as a woman or higher class because they're men. And of course, from the Bhagavad Gita, we see the beautiful verse, the humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision, a humble and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog eater. We should try and see from a Krishna conscious point of view that the super soul is in the hearts of every living entity. Externally, we may see somebody as a woman, we may see somebody as a man, we may see somebody old, young, so forth. But ultimately, we try and see the Supreme Lord in that person. So we try and treat them nicely, whether they're a devotee or non-devotee, even though we may see somebody favorable or unfavorable. But as devotees, we see an enemy and a friend equally. Of course, it's not easy, especially for me. So I just want to make sure I've covered everything. If there's any questions in the meantime, please do raise them. One other point I wanted to mention also, we can see how ISKCON is advancing so much in 50 years' time. You know, in the early days, we had after Srila Prabhupada's establishing GBC. Unfortunately, when he passed away in 77, he established 11 gurus to cover different zones within the planet Earth. So each guru was representing a particular area, particular zone, like America, South America, Europe, India, Russia, so forth. But unfortunately, we realized the temple was expanding. Devotees were coming from all around the world, becoming more and more involved. And now the gurus system within the GBC, authorized GBC system, they allow people who have qualifications to become gurus. And recently, a lady, Mataji, became the first female guru of ISKCON. And when you look at it historically, it's not that ladies can't be gurus. If you look at Lord Nishananda Prabhu's wife, Janava Devi, she was also a spiritual master. She actually initiated so many disciples as well. It's not that only men can be qualified to become a guru, but as long as they're following the instructions of the acharyas, they're not deviating in any way, we're actually have to have that point now in society where women feel comfortable to go to a spiritual master who they can address their personal issues to. They may not be comfortable maybe going to a male spiritual master, but they may feel comfortable going to a female mentor or female senior devotee, female spiritual master. So we have to give that opportunity. Krishna consciousness is not just based on certain rules and regulations which are followed by men only, but followed by devotees of all personalities, all nature. So thank you very much. We're just going to be sharing a song that I believe Shyam Prabhu is going to be singing, and Mamta Mataji is going to be recited in English. Was there any questions or comments at all? I'll just quickly have a look at the chat group.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams, Yogesh Prabhupada.
Oh, Haribol, Shalish Prabhu. I hope I haven't made any mistakes.
No, not Prabhuji. Please forgive me. Firstly, I think you missed one of the markings of Krishna's is the Kasturba jewel.
Yeah, Kasturba jewel, yes. Yeah.
It's one of his important markings.
Yeah.
Secondly, in terms of the role of women, actually, in our Shastra, the role of women is actually considered the highest and topmost. If you look at our Shastras, according to scriptures, we have 7 mothers.
Yeah.
The real mother, the wife of the spiritual master, the wife of the Brahmana, the wife of a king, the cow, the nurse, the earth, of which 5 of them are all ladies.
Yeah.
And when Prabhupada talks about these things, it's important to understand that we don't relate to the bodily concept. That the soul is actually, we're all feminine in Krishna's, according to creation, we're all feminine by nature. We just
right.
taken a female or a male body depending on our, sort of Sakruti and everything else and karma and everything else. But actually, the soul is not tied to these designations. So when Prabhupada is referring to these, and again, it's in a material sense. For devotees, these things are not applied. If you look at Krishna, Krishna is surrounded by the greatest of devotees are all female.
Yeah.
Mother Yashoda, Radharani, all the gopis, and their love for Krishna is the highest amongst all. So it's not a disqualification for Krishna's bhakti and service. It's in terms of material sense only that Prabhupada mentioned these things, not in terms of spiritual sense. So it's important to understand these things in the context of, I think people misquote Prabhupada quite frequently in these comments.
True.
But it is, he doesn't look at the designation of the soul. He looks at the material conception of how creation has worked.
Yeah,
So,
that's very true. Thank you so much, Shalish Prabhu. Yes, I did. Although you mentioned about the different markers on Krishna, first of all, your point, yes, Krishna jewel is important. It's a jewel that goes around the Supreme Lord. Although specifically I was looking at markers on his body himself, but also, yes, you're right. When we actually see the role of a woman, we shouldn't be judging them from a material perspective, but from a spiritual point, that they're actually, all part and parcel of Krishna. We are by nature feminine anyway. And of course, one of the points I forgot to mention was that the topmost devotees are the gopis, the topmost devotees, that's, of course, to understand that Leela is very difficult. But of course, when we actually serve the devotee, whether you're a man or a female, the idea is that you surrender to the Supreme Lord wholeheartedly without any desire for any personal gain, any fruitive results at all. So thank you for sharing that, Shailesh Prabhu. Any other comments? Anyone? Okay. So now, Shyam Prabhu, are you available? And
yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, I'm available.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my Dandavat pranams. I am also available. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I start?
Prabhuji, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you can start. Mamta Mataji is going to be reading the translation from Gauranga Dutipada, and Shyam Prabhu is going to be singing this song.
Hare Krishna. Gaurangera Dutipada. This is a song written by Narottama Das Thakura in his book named Prarthana. So it goes like this. Anyone who has accepted the 2 lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya can understand the true essence of devotional service. If one is captivated by the pleasing pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the dirty things in his heart will all become cleansed. One who simply takes the holy name of Gaura Sundara, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, will immediately develop love of God. To such a person, I say, bravo, very nice, excellent. If one appreciates the merciful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and feels ecstasy and sometimes cries, this process will immediately help him to understand the eternal pastimes of Radha Krishna. Simply by understanding that the associates of Lord Gauranga are eternally free from material contamination, one can immediately be promoted to the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna. If one simply understands that the land of Navadvipa is not different from Vrindavana, then he actually lives in Vrindavana. If one says, let me dive deep into the waves of the nectarian ocean of the transcendental loving movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya, he immediately becomes one of the confidential devotees of Radha and Krishna. It does not matter whether one is a householder living at home or a vanaprastha or sannyasi living in the forest. If he chants, O Gauranga, and becomes a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, then Narottama Das begs to have his association. Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'll start singing. Gaurange Raduti Pada Jaradana Sampada Gaurange Raduti Pada Jaradana Sampada Sejane Bhakati Rasa Sejane Bhakati Rasa Gaurangera Madhura Lila Jara Karne Praveshila Gaurangera Madhura Lila Jara Karne Praveshila Rudaya Nirmala Belota Rudaya Nirmala Belota Jai Gauranga Namaloye Tara Hoye Prema Doye Gaurang Jai Gaurangera Namaloye Tara Hoye Prema Doye Tare Moi Jai Bolihari Tare Moi Jai Bolihari Gaurangera Gunita Juri Nitya Lila Tare Spuri Gauranga Gunita Juri Nitya Lila Tare Spuri Sejana Bhakati Adhikari Sejana Bhakati Adhikari Gaurangera Sangigani Nitya Siddha Kori Mani Gaurangera Sangagani Nitya Siddha Kori Mani Seja Brajendra Sutapa Seja Brajendra Sutapa Sri Gaura Mandala Bhumi Jeba Jane Chintamani Sri Gaura Mandala Bhumi Jeba Jane Chintamani Tara Hoy Braja Bhumi Bas Tara Hoy Braja Bhumi Bas Gaura Prema Rasarnave Setaranga Jiba Dube Gaura Prema Rasarne Setaranga Jiba Dube Serada Madhava Antaranga Grihe Bhavani Tatake Agaranga Bole Dake Griha Bhavani Tatake Agaranga Bole Dake Narottama Mage Tarasanga Narottama Mage Tarasanga Gauranga Gaurangera duti pada jaradana sampada. Gaurangera duti pada jaradana sampada. Sejana bakati rasasar. Gaurangera madhura lila jara karne praveshila. Gaurangera madhura lila jara karne praveshila. Hridayo nirmala belo tar. Hridayo nirmala belo tar. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you very much, Shyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, really nice. And Prabhupada sings this song so nicely as well. And if you listen to Prabhupada's CDs, I mean, nowadays you can get most of the songs on YouTube and Spotify. You'll hear Prabhupada singing this beautiful song, lovely song. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you and just certainly wish you a very Krishna conscious week ahead of you. And do forgive me for any mistakes or any misunderstandings during today's class. Thank you very much. All glories to Shri Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Mancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna. Very
Hare
nice class.
Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful
Prabhuji for
singing.
nice
Thank you
singing.
for the lovely class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.